Current and former cast members of Disney, what was your most NSW moment? I was a Tinkerbell performer for WDW about 3 years ago and I can't count how many times people asked me what was under my dress or tried to grope me. I would always shame them to my photopus, attendant, their family and the people in line by loudly exclaiming, "You want to know what's under my dress? Well, there's pixie dust, of course, or this man is a pirate. He's trying to reach the pixie dust that I keep under my dress," and they'd walk away in shame like the creepy buttholes they are. Awesome way to keep in character and shame them at the same time. I hate how people think they can treat workers like that. I stopped to inform a family where the bathroom was as I was explaining it. The oldest kid doubles over and I see brown liquid running down his leg, then he starts to throw up at the exact same time. I was trying to call into dispatch but I was gagging so much that it was difficult. The kid's mom starts yelling at me to get help. Eventually someone with more experience showed up and I left. The double pipe classic. Snow White, cursing a mother out in Puerto Rican Spanish, in character voice, then returning to English without breaking a note in vocal. The mom had pushed her son in front of people. He fell and had a bloody nose. The mother started yelling at him and her. Snow White comforted him, chewed her out and carried on. Never seen a mother shrink so fast from their breakup before. All of this seen through the nose of the character costume I was in. Good on Snow White for putting the mom in her place. The nerve on some people. I'm a German who worked at the German pavilion a few years ago. One day after work some colleagues and I left the parking lot to head back home. I don't know how fricked up Norwegians are or how drunk these two were. Maybe it's even a tradition in Norway, but they just fricked on the hood of a random car standing right next to the only exit of the parking lot and they were totally aware of it. There was a lot of fricking around in general, as every cast member knows, but that was the tip of the iceberg. Norwegian here. I can confirm that incredibly enough. This is not a tradition here. Many years ago I interned at Walt Disney World in Orlando. One night I went out with a smoking hot girl that interned at Epcot Center. She lived in the Walt Disney World corporate housing at Little Lake Bryan. After a night of dancing, I dropped her off at her place. I thought it was weird that I had to show it at a guardhouse and I could only stay 1 hour since I was not residing there. Later on I heard that Disney had tight security because they broke up a prostitution ring there a few years earlier. Working at the Canada restaurant one evening there was one table left. The wife of the group went to the bathroom. Moments later we heard a loud scream and a man came running out and through the side door and back into the park. He was watching women pee from the stall next to them. And because he knew his exact exit route, my assumption is not only had he done it multiple times, he most likely worked or did work for Disney at some point. He was not caught, unsurprising. My friend Joe would get into Disneyland free every day because he was banging Cinderella. I crap you not. She likes if you slip her one at midnight. Worked on the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh as part of my college program. Came back from break and see cleaning staff and several other college students covering up little piles of brown stuff with white hand towels in front of our ride. I'm asked to create a perimeter and not let anyone walk in front of the attraction. Turns out, someone had an accident on Pooh. Instead of asking for help, they tracked a brown line from the exit ramp all the way down to the Cheshire Cafe. Poor janitor was stuck cleaning by himself cause no one else wanted to respond to the radio call until manager got involved. TL. DR. Pooh at Pooh. Was a lifeguard at one of the resorts and fricked another lifeguard in one of the cast bathrooms. Definitely could have been terminated for that one, but didn't get caught. Was a lifeguard, can confirm that we fricked like rabbits. I was bellman valet at the Grand Floridian at Disney in Orlando. I saw tons of crazy crap there. Prostitutes, crazy fights and arguments, vaginas galore as women would go commando in their evening dresses and coming out of some bomb sports cars. I got hit on by guys and girls way older than I was. But what stands out to me most was the royal family of Bahrain, Al Khalifas, that would come once a year. They would throw money around like crazy. $100 tips were not uncommon with them. $20 tips for real simple crap. But goddang, the men would always come to the door in their underwear. Didn't matter the time, the circumstances, nothing. Always in undies. It was so weird I thought. but goddang the men would always come to the door in their underwear. Didn't matter the time, the circumstances, nothing. Always in undies. To be fair, if I was royalty and the weather was nice, that'd be me. One was from a costumer themselves. I'm not too sure what his name is because it's been a while, but he had a nasty habit of pretending to be gay, so some of the female performers, mostly face characters, of the ice variety, would be more comfortable with him helping them change and be in the room while they changed. After a while the complaints started to roll in. The managers didn't take it too seriously, since they don't unless it's a certain type of performer. I can't go into too much detail here. He then had girls requesting to be removed from that location, which is really strange because it's a sought after location for some people, and he wasn't actually removed, not fired, mind you, until he was found with his face stuffed in their dirty laundry, clutching those clothes like a creepy little goblin holed away in the corner of a room. His seniority kept him within the company and I believe he's still working there currently. That is unfortunate. People can always be replaced, your reputation and honor however. Not really NSW, but my best friend works at the parks on the summertime, and did his training last year about a week or two after the incident where a child was grabbed by a gator and drowned in the lagoon outside of the Magic Kingdom. He said that at one point during training, the cast member training him and several other new employees was giving them hypothetical situations and asking how they'd react, and at one point they said to the trainees, super casually, so let's say an animal, maybe a gator, grabbed a child at the park. What would you do? And they were all so stunned they didn't know how to react, being that the accident had just very recently happened. Later on I can see if my friend has any more stories from training, but it's the middle of the night where I'm at. I have several stories, but one I remember clearly was one day I was working a specific station and a guest, you wouldn't really call him a guest, pulls up nearby with his car and shouts, "I can't take it anymore man," and then he starts taking off his pants to use the bathroom right then and there in plain view. To be fair, hearing someone dramatically yell "I can't take it anymore," them peeing is probably the best outcome. Worked hotels for over 3 years. Had a wife called to see if her husband had a room. He did, with the right address, but I couldn't tell her that he did because she wasn't on the reservation. Another woman was on it. Pretty sure she was trying to catch him cheating. People who stay at hotels are crazy, horribly uncivil at times. A grown woman swore at me, broke down and cried because we couldn't guarantee her bunk beds. We guarantee view type, not bedding. And having 2 queen beds and a rollaway for a family of 4 just wasn't okay. Meanwhile this was like 9 PM so our available rooms were slim. After yelling and crying for 15 minutes I was finally able to break away to see if we could do a room move for the next night. I come back and explain to her the room move procedures and she changes her mind and is okay with the 2 queens and rollaway. The whole time she was yelling at me before I was able to break away. The 13 and 15-year-old kids were telling her that it was fine and they really didn't care. Also the hotel I primarily worked at was under refurb the time I left the company. This lady called to say she booked a refurb room, which isn't even possible, and that the room she was in was disgusting. Mind you, she had a theme park view on the top floor. She took a downgraded parking lot view just to get a refurbed room. People are odd and tend to act strangely on vacation. Not exactly NSW, but a very good example of how stupidly people behave when their brain goes on vacation mode. Used to be a server at one of the resort restaurants, switched to DHS now. Different level of crazy in the parks. A family of 8 came in and was sat. Toddler starts fussing. Adults are too busy having a good time to pay him any attention, so he starts screaming. Grandma starts to hand him things to keep him entertained. Kid starts throwing everything he's given. One of his toys lands near a table with a party of 4. The party of 4 is obviously starting to get annoyed and asks them if they could please keep it down. Honestly, the whole restaurant was starting to get annoyed. It's a small restaurant, not technically Disney fine dining, but pretty close, so the whole restaurant could hear them. Well, party of 8 doesn't like this and tells them to frick off. Dinner comes out. They start eating. Grandma ordered a steak, so she has a steak knife. Well, toddler decides he wants to play with it, and if he doesn't get it he's going to scream bloody murder till he does. I crap you not. Grandma hands this kid her dang steak knife just so he would crap up. This kid is at most 2. Who the heck in their right mind hands a 2-year-old a steak knife? Well, as toddlers do. He starts waving it around. Let's go with it, and it flies straight to the 4 top next to them. Understandably, party of 4 does not like steak knives flying towards them, and the dad gets up and starts screaming at the 8 top. Dad and grandpa get up and start screaming back, and then the rest join in. By the time our manager came out to calm them down, the whole restaurant had pretty much come to a complete stop cause of the screaming. While the manager is walking up, dad from the party of 8 decides to shove the other dad from the party of 4. So now manager has to call security. They move the party of 4 to another section at the front of the restaurant, and the party of 8 stays put till security shows up to escort them out. While security is walking them out, they have to go past the party of 4, who are now finally enjoying their dinner in peace. Well, grandma, probably mad that she didn't get to finish her steak, decides to start screaming and cursing again, and security has to step between her and the mom and dad from the party of 4. They finally managed to get everyone out. The 4 top got their meals calmed, and the 8 top got not only kicked out of the restaurant, but got kicked out from all of Disney property, so they got to go find another hotel at 9:30 at night, without a refund from Disney. Seriously people, don't give your toddlers steak knives. People are dumb on vacation, but I guarantee the party of 8 family is shitheads even when they aren't on vacation. I worked at Downtown Disney during my CP program in 2011. We had a cart near bongos and bongos was loud at night, so I couldn't hear the guest and I had to scream to them. One lady asked me a question and I'm thinking this can't be a question. After a few times of asking her to repeat the question, she points to her crotch and yells, "Do you sell condoms?" Yeah, that's it for me. Plus naked kids at water play area. I was a college program intern at Disney World in 2004. During our off-work time my buddy and I chatted up 2 attractive ladies at one of the parks. Turns out they were strippers from the Detroit area on vacation. That weekend was a blur of alcohol-fueled dirty dancing at Pleasure Island. Also played beer pong with Cinderella a few times. This repair team was working on Pirates of the Caribbean, and one of them started messing with the wiring going into one of the animatronic pirates, despite not being fully licensed to do so. Definitely NSW. Having worked with 3 former cast members, this sounds the truest. Caught a couple trying to steal all the bases in the Rose Garden when we open it up for wishes. RIP. They were kind of in the corner and had a blanket over them. I don't blame them though. Yeah, as if a big old blanket coating you is gonna make you any more discreet. Not me, but I am friends with 2 past characters, one Minnie, and another Tinkerbell. Minnie says that for some reason, they keep hiring buttholes to play Goofy. Some have been caught smoking when in costume. Tinkerbell says that some members were late to the closing show because they were banging non-characters. When I was there summer of '98, there was 2 Tinkerbells, one male and one female. The female roamed the park and did guest interaction. The male made the flight from the castle to Fantasyland for the fireworks show. The latter Tinkerbell was dating Peter Pan, who was played by a female. Not NSW, but I work at a bar in Disneyland and I had a super awkward interaction during my first month. This squirrely young man was with his siblings buying beer at my bar. He kept making terrible and thinly veiled attempts at flirting with me, but slightly intoxicated guests will do that, so I just kept being nice and sent him on his way. After his 1 beer, he came back saying, "I'm only in town for this weekend. You seem really cool. Can I give you my number?" I get weirded out and say that I'm not supposed to take information from guests. Don't know if it's true or not. Just wanted the creep to leave. He just tried to act suave. Slides his receipt with his number on it toward me, literally jumps on my bar and kisses my cheek, then walks off my patio with his fist raised like he's in the Breakfast Club or something. Such a weird experience. Jesus, I hate people that do that. I mean, you're working. It's so annoying when people try to hit on you while you're at work, And it's awkward because you have to be nice to them or you could get in trouble. Plus he invaded your personal space, which is just a huge no. I would have kicked his butt. Good on you for keeping your cool. I know someone who was a character for a few years. They got me into Disney MGM Studios before it opened. The first story is that once they were working the Indiana Jones stunt show, and during a break between shows, looked up into the rafters and saw two dudes, one dressed as Indiana Jones, one dressed as a Nazi, having very full-on butt-banging man sex. The other is that George Lucas was a guest at the Indiana Jones show once. During a rehearsal, they were practicing bringing George onto the set in a prop military jeep that they used for the show. The driver reached his mark and stopped too fast. George wasn't wearing a seatbelt and smacked his face on the metal bars and windshield in front of him. His nose and teeth were bloodied. The driver faced no consequences though. They just got George cleaned up and rehearsals continued. It's theater. There is going to be either man sex or stories about it. The fact that a P-star doubles as a Disney princess at one of the Disney parks somewhere on this earth. Oh, there's my hero, a Disney princess. Oh god, what is she letting those men do to her? All joking aside, I haven't watched her videos. Gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Disney doesn't know she does both. So, given how strict Disney seems to be with stuff, I would think that once that got out, that would be grounds for termination, or at the very least they would find some non-related reason to let her go. Not me, but my sister's friend was kissed directly on the mouth by a gross adult man who took advantage of the fact that she couldn't break character. Well, that's just assault. I have stories from my time at Disney, but not any NSW ones. Like, too bad this isn't a what's the most outrageous guest you've had at Disney thread or the stupidest guest you've had thread. The most NSW story I have is that, okay, I don't know much about Star Wars, but that evil woman who fights kids in the Jedi training show, I think her name is Seventh Sister or something, her costume was really hot so she tended to just go walking around in her bra backstage, but then they installed an outdoor air conditioning unit so she stopped doing that. I'm sorry for your loss. Nothing too exciting. Downtown Disney at the time, now Disney Springs. One of the parking CMs hooked up with a random guest in his truck in the Team Disney lot while on shift. Also, they literally gave us stickers that said "Safety begins with me," the D being for Disney. Not exactly incredibly NSW, but still pretty NSW given the context. I used to work at a Disney store in Canada, and my stage lead was out on stage guest servicing. This one girl, probably 9 or 10 years old, went up to him and asked with a serious face, "Do you guys have any Olaf thongs?" To which he responded with a shocked expression, "No, we don't sell underwear." The girl then proceeded to say, "That's too bad. Olaf is so sexy," and walked away. He was pretty stunned after that, lol. At first I thought maybe she meant flip-flops, but then I read her response and was like, oh. Something I read from another Redditor, it was a guest, not staff, managed to accidentally witness two of the actresses who were the Disney princesses around Disney World, making out. Full-on lesbian princesses. Lucky sod. Yup, that was what I was looking for opening this thread. I worked in Frontierland at MK and there was this woman who randomly started dancing in front of Splash Mountain. Now, it normally wouldn't be an issue, but she was wearing a dress, nothing underneath, and started doing flips and flashing people. When some manager's security tried to round her up, she started running and yelling how her BF was Peter Pan and she was just waiting for him to take her back to Neverland. It was a fun day. Late to the party, but my GF has a contribution. Apparently the amount of little boy penis you see on Splash and Thunder Mountain is insane. Parents will force their children to pee into bottles while on the ride. This happened pretty frequently. She caught someone doing this at least once a month. It usually happened during the lap bar checks, and at that point, there's not a lot she could do about it. If she makes too big of a fuss and waits too long, that would cause a backup of ride vehicles, and then she'd get in trouble. And it's made further ridiculous by the fact that if the parents had just told a cast member that their stupid kid had to pee, the cast member would just give them a fast pass to get through the line. Also, she says she's caught like 2 adults doing the same thing. And then there's all the people doing drugs on Tom Sawyer's Island, and the gross old men hitting on the young female cast members. Spelling. I have a memory of peeing into a cup which was poured into the water of the It's a Small World ride, while some strange lady looked on. I would have been about 5, circa 1979. My mother denies this, but my older brother also thinks it actually happened. Disneyland Paris checking in, standard European delay, a few that come to our minds. Captain Jack gets a visit from a guest as Jack. Oh wow, let's have a contest to see who is the real Jack Sparrow. Sparrow versus Sparrow, a jack off. There's more accidental boob contact than anybody plans for. Some kid pooped on Mickey's photo location 30 minutes ago. It's a blast here. Oh, and BBB bonus round. I am one of these sleeping with a princess lads. She's my beautiful wife now. I'm honored to know so many of you have thought about touching my wife's pumpkin. That actually sounds like something Captain Jack Sparrow would say. Worked at Rock End Roller Coaster. One time at unloads, one of the cast members was retrieving something from the ride vehicle and another cast member sent the train to load with the other cast member inside. Not harnessed or anything. Management sure considered it NSW. This is literally a NSW Disney story. Not sure why someone would downvote. So have my upvote. DW. Town Square Cafe. That whole place was NSW. Or not safe to work at. It was the most mismanaged place I ever worked. We had not 1, not 2, but 5 full-time managers who were all trying to stab each other in the back in order to move up the ladder. Too many to name, but here's one that doesn't make my blood boil. I was working the stage at a club on property in Orlando, and we had a wedding party with us that evening. Not uncommon. A lot of folks would do a simple wedding at the boardwalk, then come to our place for an impromptu reception. One of the bridesmaids was clearly a mom who didn't get away from home much, and she was wasted. She went to sit in the bride's lap to yell loudly about how great of friends they were, and knocked the poor woman right over. I went to assist, got everybody up, made sure they were unhurt, and as a good measure brought some water to the bridesmaid. That would not stand, apparently. She decided to make a scene to everyone in the bar about how the frickin' bouncer thinks I'm some kinda drunk. I'm not drunk, he's an AZHOEL. Hey, why don't you give Emily some water? She needs water. AZHOEL. Bouncer, wanna see my tea? And it's at this point in the story that our aforementioned maiden pulls out her, I assume, newly fashioned store-bought breasts, and tries to rub them in my face. They're of the bolted on variety, so it could have been assault with a blunt objects. I take this as strike 2. Because kicking her out will likely mean the whole party leaving, but I do inform the bride that we're going to cut her friend off. The bride thanks me, and we go on with the show. Cut to 3 minutes later, when one of our super Catholic servers comes to me in distress. There's some very unsettling noise coming from the handicapped stall in the women's restroom. I look around for that bridesmaid. She's nowhere to be seen. I tell my server to clear the women out, cause we're gonna have to exit someone. I enter the restroom with the booming voice of a Midwestern god announcing that someone is being trespassed from property for loaning out their hoo-ha in my bar. Surprise, surprise, but she exits the stall with aforementioned breasts again in the wind, followed by her husband, who's seen better days. Penis is saluting me. He has the look of a man who just won the Indy 500 in a 1976 Charger. Baby, he says, looks like we won't be vacationing with the kids here anytime soon. Put the tea away and tell Megan goodbye. They were so happy for this mid-30s adventure, and I was so glad to be rid of them, that I didn't trespass them. They went back to their hotel to sleep it off, agreed to never come back, and he gave me a fresh $100 for my trouble. The bride also tipped me $50 for being cool about everything. Moral of this story: adults act bad at Disney World. It happens. Just acknowledge when you frick up, pay what you owe, and you won't get banned from property or spend 72 hours in Orange Company lockup. I'm sorry, but the way you've written this has me laughing my head off. It must have been shy to have to handle. LOL. This guy was probably looking to wank at some teen star NSW moments. Instead he got a ton of Disney World horror stories. Luckily I came to wank at horror stories, so we're all good. And trust me, I came. On a tangent, I used to work at Knott's Berry Farm right down the street from Disneyland between 2007 to 2011, and there was quite a love connection between the two parks' employees. And by love connection I mean ravenous freak fests that continued on with almost every employee I knew at the two parks. Fake names galore obviously, but it went like this. Denise would be fricking Dan from ride operations at Disney, but Dan was also sleeping with 3 girls in the games department of Knott's who were in turn all setting up dates for other employees to hook up, and so on and so forth. It was a giant web of non-stop sex between a lot of generally attractive folks from 2 different theme parks, and I was initiated in a beautiful way. My friend, Jerry is his fake name here, told me to check out the Johnny Rockets restrooms in Knott's one night awards closing as kind of a final sweep. It was a Tuesday in September, so the park wasn't incredibly busy like summertime, just the usual families who had passes and so forth. This request from Jerry was odd because I was working the Fiesta Village area of the park, which does not at all cross over with the Johnny Rockets section. Well, my little naive mind figured he was swamped or something and needed me to cover before his manager walked through there to check on it. So I rush over and head to the men's room only to find it looking clean and empty. In fact, someone had put up the sign saying it was being cleaned and even left out the wet floor signs by the door. So I go in and look around, called out to Jerry once and heard a laugh from the back handicap stall. It opens and out walks Gloria. OMFG Gloria. I had a crush on her for like 2 solid months. We chatted sometimes and got along pretty well overall. Occasionally flirted a bit. To be totally honest, she was not the hottest girl in the park. She had pretty bad acne still despite being in her early 20s and was a little chubby, but she had the fattest butt I've ever seen on a Latina, and that night she decided to grace me with the culmination of our friendly little flirting sessions with the most scrumptious BJ I've ever had right there in Johnny Rockets. As a virgin that summer it blew my freaking mind. I remember awkwardly trying to grip her butt as she was blowing me and not being able to get anywhere near it due to her being on her knees and me standing. Haha, I actually remember being a bit sad after that I never got to squeeze it or slap it or anything. Oh well. Jerry radios me about 2 minutes after I left and asks if Johnny Rockets was cleaned. I responded something to the effect of UHH yes I finished, I mean it's clean. Radio silence. Nobody knew what it meant anyway, but I was young and paranoid, so I totally thought I blew the cover. Good times at Knott's, man. Good times. Gloria, if you ever read this, you know who you are and you know who I am. You were 10/10 and I hope you are doing alright in life. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.